Chapter 15. There are no such thing as a coincidence, Sylvia says when we visit her on the first Sunday we're back. I'm glad you left when you did. We were sitting around her large dining table eating a roast dinner. Jamie began telling them all about the holiday, but he was candid in a witty, breezy way, not revealing how anxious we've been feeling about it since we arrived home 3 days ago. He doesn't mention the food poisoning, wanting to keep the story light. I could tell he thought it would be a funny tale to regale his family with, and he doesn't anticipate Sylvia's horror, although he should have done knowing how overprotective she can be. I can't believe you found dead animals in their basement, interjects Florian's husband Richard, through a mouthful of roast potatoes. Jamie gets quite on well with Richard, but then Jamie gets on well with everybody. I think Richard is a bit immature. He's sort of a person who falls about laughing if someone steps in dog pool, and I heard Florian moaning to her mother that he stays up half the night playing on the Xbox and can't get up for work the next day. There's something a little sleazy about him. The way his eyes linger too long on your breast. He can't quite meet your eye. When Kate wears short skirts, which is more often than not, I notice how his glance sweeps over her legs. Florian nudges him in the cage and squirrels. He glances at me and pulls a comical face. And I can't believe, says Sylvia in her cut grass accent, turning her flint-colored eyes on me, that you let my son languish in the hospital without telling me. There's a collective intake of breath around the table. Florian puts her knife and fork down with a clatter. Katie's wine glass freezes at her lips, and Richard looks at me with a smirk on his face, as though he's a kid at school delighted that I've been told off by the teacher. Hannah sits quietly at the end of the table, opposite Jamie, her large eyes watching me. Her little boy Felix and Florian's son Jacob are the only ones unaffected by Sylvia's explanation. The chicken I'm chewing feels like rubber in my mouth. I swallow painfully. I didn't want to worry you. Her finely shaped eyebrows, so like her son's, knit together. It's a mother's job to worry. Thank goodness Hannah told me. Hannah? How Hannah know? Then I'll be looking at my husband. So you told Hannah that she was in the hospital. Why you didn't just still call and tell your mama? Why your son didn't tell you we was in the hospital? Why he telling Hannah? I got a lot of questions. I met her cool, challenging gaze. How did Hannah know? And then I remember the text message she sent Jamie. With all the drama of leaving the hideaway and fleeing back to Bath, I forgot to ask about him. I could just imagine in his text. Apologized for not replying sooner because he'd been in the hospital, discussing that secret and keeping it hidden from me. I felt an intense dislike for her then. Mom, leave her alone, says Jamie mildly. I'm 30 years old. You don't need to know my every movement. Sylvia's face softens. She has an attractive face when she isn't being judgmental, with strikingly gray eyes framed by her blonde fringe. She's always dresses well, thinking it important to accessorize. She likes chunky jewelry and is never without the wristful of bangles. These jingles now as she pours gravy over her chicken. But you were in the hospital, Jamie, love. What if something had happened? I had a bit of food poisoning, that's all. And that's not the worst of it all. We found he lowers his voice so not to frighten the children. Some clothing, underwear, ripped and covered in blood. Ziggy dug it up. We called the police. They're taking it very seriously. There's a stunned silence. Oh no, now she really not feeling like you. You had her son's life in danger. He could have died. What is wrong with you, girl? Blimp me, what a holiday, proclaims Richard eventually, sitting back in his chair. Fat and sexy underwear in the garden having the shits. Hardly sexy, I'm under, appealed at his carness. Richard, Florian prawns him again. She seems to spend her whole life being embarrassed by her husband. Mommy, what does the shits mean? Asks Flex, glancing up at Hannah with the same big eyes. Hannah looks furious and glances at me as though it's my fault. Uncle Richard said a bad word, she says, turning her attention to her son. The name draws, but I push it out of my mind and distract Felix by asking him how to show me the new cuddly seal that he's brought with him. He's soon telling me all about Snowy, and Richard's words are forgotten. I'm worried about a grateful and rare smile from Hannah. For the rest of the afternoon, I watched the interaction between Jamie and Hannah, scrutinizing them for signs that they are keeping something from me. They disappear at one point, and I find them in the kitchen. I can tell by their body language that they are having a heart-to-heart. She's standing with her back against the worktop, And he's so close that their shoulders are touching. Oh! She looks... She looks pretty in a neat floral dress. Long boots and a denim jacket. He has his arm resting loosely across his stomach. His legs crossed at the ankles and they are talking in mutters. As soon as I walk in, they spring apart. Hannah reaching up to the cupboard to get a glass, and Jamie inexplicably opening the microwave. What's going on? I say, my voice cold. Hannah glances at me, her face a picture of innocence. What do you mean? Well, why have you disappeared in here? We're just having a private conversation, she says, and I want to slap her smug face. That's still allowed, now that he's married, isn't it? She smiled sweetly, and I would have asked would have been, no, the fuck is no, it's not. He's married. Why would you want to be alone with a married man? This close up on him. I fight. She smiled sweetly, then brushes past me and out of the room. Probably wanted to tell it all to Katie, and their gossip in the corner like two teenagers to the 28 women that they are. Jamie can't meet my eyes as he closes the microwave door. He's empty-handed. What's she playing at, I hiss. Jamie shakes his head. Lips, I don't know for years. I don't care. She wants you for herself. She doesn't see me like that anymore. I grown. Are you that naive? And even if she did, it doesn't matter. She's just a friend. That's all. You should know this by now, Lips. He drives over to me. She's just got a problem she wants some help with, that's all. You do trust me, don't you? I trust you, but I don't trust her. You do understand that, right? Don't you? I sense an undercurrent of irritation beneath his jovial tone. I've always been secure in his love for me, even though I sense that his family don't like me much, except maybe Florian. So why do I feel this way now? This fear that I'm about to lose him, that everything is unraveling. Is it because of what happened in Cornwall? Or the fire and the miscarriage? I'm not sure. You told me yourself Hannah really loved you. She thought you were the one, Jay. He looks down at his feet and shuffles, clearly uncomfortable. We were kids. You broke her heart. We were too serious too quickly. Then we went to different universities and things. Well, you know how it is. You cheated on her. The realization suddenly hits me. He's never admitted that to me before, but it's in his expression. The downcast eyes, the sheepish smile, guilt. He shuffles and glances back at his Converse. I'm not proud of that. You cheated on her. You really want me to think you really want me to think you and this bitch finna be friends? And not and the thought not be that you cheating on me with her? Oh hell no. Why have you never told me before? Like I said, I'm not proud of it. He lifts his head up but doesn't smile or make a joke. I'm pleased that he's not trying to make light of it. I stare at him. He's capable of cheating. Jamie Hall, who I always thought was so black and white, so moralistic, so red bread. He was no better than my father. Liz, why are you staring at me like that? As though you don't know who I am. Jesus, it was a lifetime ago. I was young and stupid. I wasn't in love. Not like I am with you. He moves toward me. Please don't make a big deal about this. I swallow and try to compose myself. I'm not. I don't know. How could I have not known this? We've been together nearly 5 years. Did he keep it from me deliberately? I think back to all those early conversations, intertwined on our bed, on my single bed in a shabby bed set, while we were finding out about each other, about past relationships. He pulls me to him, wrapping his arms around my waist. It was different then. I was different. I will never do anything like that to you. I hope you know that. I don't care how Hannah feels about me. It's you I love. You are married. You I want to be with for the rest of my life. I'm glad I hear it, I say. From beyond the doorway, I catch a flash of Flora, a swish of blonde hair. Has Hannah been standing there this whole time listening? I lean to him and rest my head on his chest, trying to ignore my unease. Girl, you got to pay attention to all this uneasiness. All this uneasy feelings that you feeling, you got to pay attention to. You cannot let it go out the window. You got to pay attention to this shit, girl. What's wrong with you? It's a cold day with a crisp blue sky and a low sun. At the lunch, I sit in the commissary enjoying the warmth filtering through the sky glass. Watching Philip and Jacob wrapped up warm. Sprinting up and down the vast lawn, Jamie and Richard running after them. Hannah and Flora looking on adorably, their arms folded. Being back here with his family, it's easy to forget the events of the past week. Although as though we've never been to Cornwall. Despite the years we've been together, I still can't get over how large this house is. That this is where he spent his childhood. So different from the tiny house I've grown up in. They even have a coach house at the bottom of the garden where their guests sleep. Sylvia's always having friends to stay over. I sense she likes it best when the house is full of people and laughter and chatter. And despite the fact that she annoys me at times, I feel for her. Not having her husband around anymore. I watch as Jamie dribbles a ball and Felix runs after him, laughing, his arms outstretched. Jamie cheated on Hannah. I still can't believe it. It's as though he shifted slightly in my perception, like catching sight of him through one of those fun mirrors at a fairground. Don't you want to go out and join them? A voice makes me jump. I turn to see Katie reclining against the doorframe and listen an excellent expression on her face. She had the same dirty blonde hair as her mom and Jamie, where Florence is dark like their dad. Katie is the pretty girl. Out arms, slender legs, but there's something restless about her, as though she doesn't really know where she belongs. Boomeranging from one job to another, one boyfriend to another, and one home to another. She recently moved back in with Sylvia, and is jobless once more, even though she's only 2 years younger than me. Sylvia never said that she is intensely loyal to all 3 of her children, but I know that she worries about Katie, her lack of direction. I would have given anything for the privilege and expensive education that she obviously takes for granted. Even though Florence is the archetypical bossy older sister, I prefer her to Katie. Florence more down to earth, more solid, even if we stare at the same taste in men. Not that Richard is a bad bloke. He's just a bit of an ass at times. Kate, on the other hand, is manipulative, playing her role as the baby of the family to suit her needs. But not with me. I can see straight through her. I turn to her with what I hope is don't mess with me look on my face, the kind I give my pupils when they play up. She ignores it and sits down opposite of me on one of the Radican sofas. She swings her legs around so they are hanging over the arm. There is a wedding photo of me and Jamie above her head. Flora and Katie flanking us, representing in pale blue. I remember how much of a do with Katie had been about the wedding, how she refused to wear blue as it watched her out, how she accused me of trying to make her look bad, as though it was all about her. I bit in my tongue, of course, although I refused to change the color of the bridesmaids to get dresses. Jamie affirmed her family firmly that she wore the color I chosen to step down as bridesmaid. Not for the first time, I wished I had my own sister to stand by my side on that day, to fight in my corner. It's hard sometimes. Stand up to the hard women. Kate is quietly assessing me with her cool gaze. You're so quiet sometimes, Libby. Who knows what goes on inside your head? You should be out there with your husband instead of letting him play daddy to Hannah's kid. I fixed a smile on my face. I'm willing to rise to the bait. It's nice for him to spend some time with his family, and I'm still feeling a bit off color. I touch my stomach to illustrate my point, and with my arm, I lift my cast and pull a disappointed face. Don't wait to fall over when the cast is coming off next week. She chews her lip thoughtfully. I suppose you don't want to play with kids when you're looking after them all day. It's not that. I love kids. I think of how I would have been looking forward to the 20-week scan about now. But it must be weird, she continues, relentlessly crossing her legs at the ankle and wiggling her toes. Her nails are painted a dark purple. To see her husband with his ex-girlfriend. I remember how in love they were once upon a time. First love. That's a powerful thing, isn't it? We all thought they'd get married. Funny how things turned out, don't you think? I wonder if she continues to see Hannah just to wind me up. It's true they've been best friends for years, but Hannah, now her mother, has outgrown Katie. It's always struck me as odd how Katie parades Hannah around the house like some trying to prize pig. Well, I've been seeing them together for 5 years, so I'm used to it, I said pleasantly, my tongue blinding my irritation. I'm like a tennis pro. The way I bat away her digs, I had enough practice over the years. It's like she knows exactly what to say to get to me, but I never show how much her words sting. It had been strange at first, knowing Jamie's ex was still a part of the family. Hammy had been heavily pregnant and still married when I first met her, and I quickly realized that I'll never have to I'll have the sort of relationship with Sylvia that they share, the sort of relationship that I hoped for and craved. I assumed before I met Jamie's mom that she would fill the void my own mom had left behind when she died. That Sylvia would become a sort of surrogate, but of course it isn't as simple as that. Sylvia couldn't be more different to my own mother. It is as though she doesn't feel I'm quite good enough for Jamie. And I'm not the daughter-in-law she's been hoping for. With my northern accent, my preference for a paint of larger over a glass of wine, my chipped nails, my clothes stained with marker pens, I'm not what she calls well turned out. Once I saw her looking with distaste at the tattoo of a winged bird on my upper arm. She doesn't like that I'm competitive at board games, that I don't iron James' clothes. I don't even iron my own clothes. That I have 3 piercings in my left ear. That I'm not constantly on the diet of talking about food or baking. My saving grace is that I'm a teacher. I can almost hear her telling her friends at Women's Institute that at least I have an education. Hannah, on the other hand, fills that void with her posh girls' school and her family money, even if she is now a divorced single mom. Jamie confided in me once that Hannah's family were utter snobs, and he never really liked them for the fact that they were so uninterested in Hannah, putting all the effort and ambition in the Oxford educated son instead. They moved to Jersey a few years ago, so Jamie tells me. Hannah hardly sees them. Katie frowns now, twirling a section of her hair across her finger. Yes, well, I wouldn't like my husband being so close to his ex. But then we're different, aren't we? She smiles sweetly and jumps up from the sofa. Bored that she is getting a rise out of me. I long to tell her to grow up, but I pick a magazine up from the coffee table and start leafing through it instead. I can sense her watching me by the door, but I keep my eyes on the page, pretending to be engrossed in the private life of a soap star. I know you think I'm pretty thick. Her words cut into the silence. I'm so shocked. The magazine slips from my lap and onto the stone floor. I snap my head up. No, I don't. I think you're actually very clever. It's true she is. She just used her intelligence in the wrong way by being sly. I might not have a degree like you, but I know about people, and I know about you. You all like to think you're so together, so strong, but you're like a swan. On the surface, you're elegant and in control, but underneath, it's all your legs are desperately kicking to stay afloat. Katie, it doesn't mean you're weak to show that you're not perfect, you know. I know that. I don't think I'm perfect. Far from it. How does she know that most of the time I feel like an imposter? She narrows her eyes as though wanting to say more, but thinks better of it, tossing her back and flouncing out of the room. Outside the window, Sylvia is handing out tea from a circular tray. The steam rising from the assorted collection of bone china mugs. Jamie and Hannah are in conversation on the edge of the ground. She's leaning into him and laughing at something he's saying. It irks me that even after our conversation, he's still indulging her. She sees me watching and smirks. I feel a spark of anger. She should be careful who she's messing with. I put everything I got into creating my life with Jamie, and I won't let her and anyone else ruin it for her. So are we gonna kill Jamie because of this bitch? This itch? Hold on, y'all. Chapter 16. 2 days before Good Friday, I finally have the cast removed. I'm gonna skip home from the hospital, elated that I'm no longer restricted by the sling, that I can now take Ziggy for walks again, or go for a run, or play Batman. All the things I enjoyed before the fight. Evelyn is sitting at her window as I sit in the steps to our basement flat, and I give her a wave. She waves back, and I vow to pop over to see her later. I fumble with my keys. The new lock is a bit stiff, and the door seems to resist as I push it open. I soon realize why. The post has arrived and is clogged up in the hallway. I bend over to pick up the junk mail that dropped through the letterbox. 10 times the amount we usually receive. I flick through it frowning. All addressed to me and seem to be from companies selling everything from mundaneness to the absurd to downright rude. I throw them onto the worktop and a lewd advertisement about a penis and enlargement kit glances up at me. I screw it up and shove it in the bin, surprised when I see what's beneath it. The same catalog that was in the hideaway, with all that expensive Sanavarian furniture. Surely I didn't order this, or did I? I throw it onto the sideboard. Somebody's using your stuff. Only stopping when it knocks against an ornament. The Buddha. What's that doing here? I hadn't laid eyes on it for years, but I couldn't bring myself to part with it, so kept it hidden away. Did Jamie find and put it out? I started the Buddha's serene face, his relaxed yoga pose, the elaborate headdress with the point and spoke at the point. Turning it over in my hands, it was slim and elegant, carved out of black stone. I can't look at it without thinking of all that happened. It has to go. The door to the phone room is firmly shut, and I can hear Jamie talking on the phone. Something about infrastructure and database. I still don't really understand what he does, even though he always trying to explain it to me. I carry the Buddha into the bedroom and shove it in the back of my wardrobe, underneath a pile of summer clothes. When I return to the kitchen, Ziggy springs up from his bed. Sorry, boy. I have not said hello yet. I say, and enjoying the freedom of hugging him. I bury my face in his fur. He needs a bath. In fact, I think as I stand up, this whole flat smells of dog. I light the candle on the pine sideboard at the dining room end of the kitchen, taking deep breaths of the mandarin scent. The candle really shares with the room with a flickering crackle. It doesn't have quite the same effect as it did in the hideaway, but the smell reminds me of the Cornwall house, expensive and erotic. Jamie passed into the kitchen. He hasn't shaved for a few days. The stress that had lingered around him like bad aftershave before Cornwall is back, and not for the first time. I worry that becoming self-employed is too much pressure on him. He's holding a particle by his fingertips as though he loathes to touch it, and knocks against his leg as he walks. I wave my arm in front of him. The cat's gone, I said, feeling phobic. That's great news, he replies, beaming at me, his eyes twinkling. What have you got there? His face closes up. It's for you. What have you been ordering? I haven't made my first meal yet, he jokes. His eyes go to the candle. And where did that come from? I bought it cheap from the charity shop, I lie. Must have been an unused gift or something. He won't approve if I tell him the truth, that I took it from the hideaway. I justified it to myself by deciding that as we used it when we were on holiday, Tiara wouldn't have expected us to leave it behind. Jamie might not see it that way, though. I'm not ordering anything. I take the parcel from him. It's large and heavy. The name of a well-known catalog company embezzled down the side of an orange plastic envelope. I don't even have any catalogs. I'll rip it open. What is it? He says, going over to the kettle and pouring the boiling water into 2 mugs. I was frowned. It looks like some sort of kind of bag. I say as it slides from his package. It's large, ugly, the type of backpack a student might take traveling. I definitely didn't order this. I double-checked the name on the front, hoping there has been some mistake and it's meant for one of the neighbors, but it's just as me. Jamie places a mug of tea on the oak table in front of me. Going somewhere, Lips, he said. He laughs, but it's not funny. Cold fingers creep down my back. Why have I been sent this? I dump it on the table and then ferry it inside the package to find an order form. Look, I wave the piece of paper under his nose. He narrows his eyes and takes it from me. I never set up an account. It's obvious someone settled orders, he says, the midst of a shrug, handing me back the form. Just ring them and tell them. Send the bag back. I sigh, but it's such a waste of time. I know, Liz. But these things happen. Cradling his mug, he wanders out of the room. I stuff the bag back in his packaging and refashion it. The sky darkens and it's starting to rain as I walk to the post office. The nagging feeling about the bag stalks me. Does it mean something? Is it personal? I remember walking those dusty, sun-baked streets in Thailand with a similar bag on my back weighing me down. I'm so distracted, I almost bump into a woman with a baby strapped in front of me. I apologize and she smiles in that tired yet a phobia way the new mothers do, and my heart twists. I would have been nearly 4 months pregnant by now. Would I have had a bump? A glow? The streets are busy with families enjoying the last week of the Easter holiday. Wrapped up in waterproof, the streets are sea of umbrellas. The traffic is starting to build up as I get closer to the high street, and lights are coming on in the windows I pass, despite it being 4 p.m. The amount of posts I received that morning plays on my mind as I query at the post office. All those advertising circulars and promises of 15% off companies I never even bought from anything from. Why would they suddenly send me stuff? You need to be checking your credit card. Just getting rid of the bag makes me feel lighter. As I round the corner to our street, I sense someone close behind me. I stop and turn abruptly. A woman is snapping at my heels. Her face is obstructed by her umbrella, but I see long, straight hair and clumpy biker boots. I walk on more slowly, but she doesn't go around me. She slows too. Is she following me? I stop and stand aside to let her pass, annoyed that she's invading my space. She strides past, not giving me a second glance. When I arrive back at the flat, Jamie is out with Ziggy, so I retrieve my laptop from the living room to conduct what has become a daily ritual of strolling through Cornish websites for news. As usual, there is nothing. At dusk, by the time I realize that Jamie is still out with Ziggy, I go put a pan of pasta on the hob. I feel jittery and anxious. The parcel and letter still at the back of my mind. I can hear Evelyn's radio on upstairs. Later on in the evening will be replaced by the television. It will be long before I hear the theme tune to one of the many soaps she watches. I strain the pasta over the sink. My gaze going to the window and the pavement above. Ziggy sitting under the street lamp, and I can just make out a pair of legs next to him. I'm leaning over the sink to get a better view. Jamie's talking to a man in a pinstripe suit and a dark overcoat. I vaguely recognize him from one of the big houses farther down the road. A 3-story detached home with its own driveway. I seen him getting into a flashy sports car. His wife was an attractive woman, younger than him, and very glamorous. Never without lipstick and several coatings of mascara on her long lashes. Her glossy dark hair always blow-dried in loose waves. The glow of the lamppost illustrates the fine rain that falls softly into Ziggy's coat. Why is Jamie standing there talking in the rain? I can see the man looks furious, and he's waving something towards Jamie's face. I run to the front door and open it just in time to see the man striding away. Jamie's expression is closed as he descends the steps with Ziggy lopsiding close behind. The rain has darkened Ziggy's golden coat, and his forehead is furrowed between the eyes so that it looks as though he's frowning. Was that the guy from down the road? What did he want? I asked as soon as Jamie steps over the threshold. He shrugs off the coat and hangs it on the peg while I rub Ziggy down with an old towel. Yep, Martin, such a twat. What did he want? I repeat when it's obvious Jamie isn't going to volunteer any more information. Oh, it's nothing. I feel my heckles rising. It didn't look like nothing. He stalks off in the kitchen. I follow. The soybean pasta sits on the side, glowing cold. I return to the saucepan and add some of the tomato sauce I defrosted earlier. I begin stirring the pasta so vigorously the sauce spits over the side and onto the hob with a sizzle. Jamie comes up behind me and wraps his arms around my waist. Don't be mad, Lips. Then why can't you tell me what it's about? He sighs, his breath hot on my neck. It's actually a bit embarrassing. Cross wires. It has to be. I swerved on my heels facing. What do you mean? Martin accosted me as I walked at home with Ziggy. Said I've been sending his wife love letters. He has the good grace to blush. This man is acting like y'all. These people's acting like y'all. These motherfuckers have stolen y'all fucking identities, and y'all over here in the crib just not even caring. They stolen your identity. They're going to kill you and move on to the next house. These 2 young people have come. They are going around stealing identities, and how they get the next identity is they get put out those sad, making them seem like they sick, and they need to go house sitters. They want a house swap, so then them people house swap, and they go to the old people house, but them old people is dead. What? I dropped the wooden spoon in shock, and we both watched as it clatters to the floor, splashing tomato sauce onto the cabinets. I tug heavily and grabbed a dishcloth from the sink, wiping the floor in the cupboards. Jamie sidesteps me and turned down the hob. I know, it's ridiculous. Well, they weren't really letters, more like cards, romantic cards. He gives a disbelieving laugh. I don't even know his wife. Didn't even know her name until today. It's Anna, apparently. But have you seen her? This Anna. Even you can't fail to notice how attractive she is. Well, yes, he said helplessly. I suppose she is attractive, but I don't ever say hello. Sometimes we pass each other when she's out running and I'm walking Ziggy. I can feel the heat flood my face. I think of Jamie's coying up to Ruth at Lizard Point or chatting with Hannah. Their bodies touching. He's a bit of a flirt. I always thought so. So he showed you one of the cards I say still scrubbing the floor? He practically shoved it in my face. Okay, so tell me what to say. I sat up to rest the cloths under the sink, trying to remain calm. I think a case sworn agony. She's right, that's me. Beneath it all, I'm kicking furiously, trying not to drown. And was it your writing? Of course it wasn't. Lips, he grasped my arms and swung me around to his face. You don't think I'll do anything like that, do you? No, of course not. I looked past his shoulder. You don't sound too sure. It's just... We might think he cheating.